Now, an Emeritus Newsbrief, I'm Lynn, Huston. Still no firm answers other than what's already known in the water landing of that U.S. Airlines flight. The right engine, as it turns out, is still attached to the plane. This despite earlier reports that both engines had been missing. Now the first video has emerged of the jet actually making the water landing on the Hudson River. This is video from a Coast Guard surveillance camera. Watch the far left middle of the screen. The camera is actually in New Jersey, pointed east toward New York City. After being spotted by Coast Guard technicians, the camera then zooms in, showing the first passengers getting onto the wing in less than a minute. Preliminary cause still said to be birds knocking out both engines. The pilots and crew did an incredible job, and this video will no doubt be used by government regulators who have been trying to change airline crew training to include more intensive water-related emergencies.
Our new president-elect and his precious family.
President-elect Barack Obama and Vice President Joe Biden making their weekend way to Washington by train, greeting thousands along the way. A campaign-style stump through economically hard-hit industrial areas, receptive crowds for Obama's economic stimulus plan. A plan the pair says the U.S. needs and needs now.
Know that I will not be traveling alone. I'll be taking with me some of the men and women I met along the way. Americans from every corner of this country whose hopes and heartaches were the core of our cause, whose dreams and struggles have become my own. Theirs are the voices I will carry with me every day in the White House. Theirs are the stories I will be thinking about when we deliver the changes you elected me to make. When Americans are returning to work and sleeping easier at night, knowing their jobs are secure and their children's future is secure, I'll be thinking about people like Mark Dow, who worried his job at Ford will be the next one cut, a devastating prospect with teenage daughters he has back home. When affordable health care is no longer something we hope for, but something we can count on, I'll be thinking of working moms like Chandra Jackson, who was diagnosed with an illness and is now burdened with higher medical bills on top of child care for her 11-year-old son. When we're welcoming back our loved ones from a war in Iraq that we've brought to an end, I'll be thinking of our brave servicemen and women sacrificing around the world. I'll be thinking about veterans like Tony Fisher, who served 2 tours in Iraq, and all of those returning home who were unable to find a job. These are the stories that will drive me in the days ahead. They are different stories told by men and women whose journeys may seem separate, and yet what all of you showed me time and time again is that no matter who we are or what we look like, no matter where we come from or what faith we practice, we are a people of common hopes and common dreams who ask only for what was promised us as Americans, that we might make of our lives what we will and see our children climb higher than we did. Thank you, Philadelphia. Love you guys. Thank you.
As Obama traveled the tracks, tremendous backroom negotiations continue at the Capitol between Obama's team and that of congressional leaders. The reason? New urgency to change the stimulus plan to provide health insurance for the increasing ranks of unemployed, uninsured Americans. Discussions surround the possibility of up to $50 billion being spent to insure the unemployed through their former employers' COBRA health plans or through Medicaid. Economic news at week's end was another reason why Obama now believes digging ourselves out of this will take time. On Friday, Circuit City laid off 30,000 after deciding to take its bankruptcy into closing and liquidation. Pfizer Pharmaceuticals laying off 2,400, mostly in sales. AMD, makers of computer processors, 1,000 jobs. At least 40,000 job cuts were announced on Friday alone. More on the Emeritus News employment page. And you'll want to read at least the summary of a report just released from the General Accountability Office showing the majority of the largest corporations and contractors having subsidiaries in countries associated with tax shelters overseas. The GAO claims that it, quote, did not attempt to determine if the corporations or contractors engaged in actual transactions with their subsidiaries in order to reduce their tax burden. But the findings will likely spur Congress to conduct a more in-depth inquiry. More shakeout in the newspaper industry. The Minneapolis Star, the nation's 10th largest newspaper, has filed for bankruptcy but will continue for now as normal. And in Tucson, Arizona, media giant Gannett announced the major daily newspaper there, the Tucson Citizen, is for sale but will close if no viable alternatives are found in a couple of months. Even if the paper closes, Gannett could expand its Phoenix paper, the Arizona Republic, to serve Tucson with a daily local publication. Emeritus News, the latest on the biggest issues and public policy at emeritusnews.com. That's an Emeritus News Brief. I'm Lynn Huston.